Welcome in. I hope you guys are having a great week so far. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of it. I am looking forward to today's project. But before we get started, I just want to say hey to everybody, lots of familiar faces. For those of you who have never taken a class with me before, hi, I hope you'll stick around and I hope you'll come back. My name is Sara Lovecraft. I'm a designer for Beadalon. And I specialize in wire, and today we're working with some wire. We're actually putting together a bracelet that is a pretty common, very popular bracelet. This bracelet is called a goddess style bracelet. I'm not really sure where it got the name from, to be honest with you. I don't really understand why it's called that, but that is the most common way to find it if you're looking for this style. That being said, there's a bunch of different ways you can put this bracelet together. There are several different versions of this and a lot of different techniques that are used in putting it together, and I'm just going to show you one of the many ways that you can do that. This one to me is probably the easiest way to put it together, because we're using memory wire. Memory wire already has a nice cuff form to it, so we don't have to worry about shaping everything after we get everything all together, and you know that it's always going to spring back into its shape, which is really nice. It really kind of does a lot of the work for you. And then we're just going to wrap some wire around two of the memory wire bangles essentially and secure it. It's really a straightforward, pretty easy project, but the bracelet design itself is gorgeous. And I know that you're going to have a lot of fun putting it together, and we'll be looking at all of the beads in your stash, thinking of which ones to put together to make some more of these bracelets. So let's get started. There's not a lot of materials that are needed for this. I'm going to turn you around. We will get right into it. All right, so as far as the materials are concerned, you're just going to need some bracelet size memory wire. I'm using some round, large. You can actually use the oval size memory wire or the oval shaped memory wire if you want to as well. It's not going to take a whole lot of this, so you're going to have plenty of memory wire left over, which is super cool because that means you can make more of these bracelets, or you can make other things with your memory wire. You're going to need some memory wire cutting shears. Please do not use your regular cutter tool to cut your memory wire. Memory wire is tempered steel. That's what gives it that spring form to it that makes it bounce back into place. It's going to always have that round shape to it. If you use your regular cutters on this, you're going to crack the blades. So you need to be sure that you're using a cutter tool like this one that is specifically designed for cutting through this tempered steel. You're also going to need just some standard tools around those pliers for shaping the ends if you want to. I'm using the Beadalon with the big blue yellow handles on them. And then you're going to need a regular cutter tool for cutting the ends of some of the smaller wire that we're going to be using. The smaller wire, I'm using some 24 gauge German style wire. You can use artistic wire for this. You really can use either one. It doesn't make any difference. I prefer the German style wire. That's what I use for most everything. But if you don't like the feel of the German style, definitely use the artistic if you want. And then the only other thing you're going to need is some beads. And I've got two colors of the beads here. I'm going to show them to you. And then one, it's a little bit different, but essentially the same thing. So these are some 6mm glass beads, and Michaels has these in a bunch of different colors. I really love these. They kind of have that mermaid feel to them. These light blue ones in particular really kind of give me mermaid vibes. And then there are the matte gray, but they still have that shimmer to them. And then these are not matte, but they're the same gray. I just wanted to show you, these are the two that I'm going to use, but I wanted to show you just so you know when you go shopping at Michaels, or if you're shopping on the website, what to look for. They are strung on a card and you get 2 strands of them. So you're going to have plenty to work with, probably have some left over if you want to make, something to match your bracelet. Okay. All right, so as far as the memory wire is concerned, you can do this 2 different ways. In the instructions, it says for you to cut 2 rounds of memory wire. Now, when I wrote those instructions, what I meant was a perfect round, meaning you're going to cut it right where the ends are going to meet each other. So you've got just a one single round of the memory wire, and that works. Okay, if you want to start out like that and you've got 2 of those, that's going to work perfectly. That's what I did originally with the sample. However, since then I've thought about this some more, and I cut mine that I'm going to use today a little bit longer, about, I don't know, 1.5 inches longer on each side. So you can see the ends are kind of overlapping each other, and I'm going to tell you why here in just a second. So let's look at the sample before we get started. The sample is, of course, those 2 rounds of the memory wire. Each one has the beads on it. So one of them has the lighter blue and one of them has the matte gray. They're not attached to each other initially. They get attached to each other once we start winding some of that 24 gauge wire around them. We'll get to that part here in just a little bit. Let's talk about why it is that I've kind of changed my mind about what's in the directions here. Now, again, you can still do it the way it says in the directions, or you can alter it just a little bit and do it the way that I'm going to show you. It's essentially the same thing. However, when you cut with just making a single round, okay, and you go to create a loop on the end, I'll show you. So you're just going to take your round nose pliers, you're going to grasp the end of the wire, and you're going to roll back to create a loop. That single loop is perfectly fine. And that's what I did on the original. I did just the single loop. Okay, that's fine. However, I find that sometimes if you're using a smaller bead, or if you're using beads that are a little heavy, and two rounds of these 6mm beads, they're not super heavy, but they are a little, I don't know, they just have a little extra weight to them. I find that it's better to cut a little bit longer and to roll your loop twice. I just feel like you've got a stronger loop at the end. There's no way that it's going to come undone, particularly when we go to wrapping that 24 gauge wire around it. So in order to have enough of this at the end to wrap around twice, right, to make a little coil 2 times around, I cut mine a little bit longer. That's why this time I'm overlapping just a little bit. Either way is fine. Okay, you do whatever you are more comfortable with, but I'm going to do mine with a double loop. All right, so that's where we're going to get started. For each one of these pieces, we've got 2 pieces. I tried to cut them as close to the same length as I possibly could. We're going to take our round nose pliers, and we're going to do just like we did a second ago. I'm going to grab the very tip of that wire, and I'm going to roll back. You do have to use a little bit of strength because this memory wire is tough stuff. So I've looped around once, and then I'm going to loop around just like I showed you a second time. I just feel like it's a little bit stronger. So I'm essentially just making a double loop, a little coil, if you will, out of the wire. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other one. Now I'm only doing one end. We have to leave the other end open so we can get those beads on. So again, just grabbing the wire at the end, rolling it back, and then I'm going to roll a second time around so that I've got a coil of 2. Okay. All right. Now, each one of these, we want to thread on our beads. One of them, you want 1 extra bead. Okay. So for instance, and everybody's going to be a little bit different because everybody's going to want a different size cuff bracelet. But for the sample, the light blue, there are 33 of the light blue and there are 34 of the matte gray, just so that there's 1 extra on 1 strand. You may need to adjust that, but try to make it so that at least one of the colors has got 1 extra bead on it. Okay, so I'm just threading these on, and that loop at the end that we created is what's going to keep all those beads from sliding off, right? All right, so there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay. There's 10 more here. Memory wire is super cool stuff because it already has that tempered shape and it's not going to lose that round structure. You can cut rounds of the memory wire for all kinds of things. They make great hoop earrings. The smaller ones, because it comes in different sizes. You can get it in, ring size. You can get it in necklace size. You can use those for, of course, rings and necklaces, but the ring size you can also use for like wine glass charms. A lot of different things you can do. And you don't have to worry about it ever losing its shape. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and roll the end. Now, this may not be exactly the number that I had on the original, but that's all right. Okay, so I rolled once. I'm going to roll a second time just to make that loop extra secure. All right. All right, so there's one of our bangles, and of course you can just wear it by itself, right? I mean, it's just a cool little bangle bracelet all by itself, but we want to double ours up, and so we're going to thread on our gray beads here for the second side of this, and I'm going to do my best to do one more gray bead than the blue. Now that may mean that my loop on the end may not make it a full 2 times around, but be pretty close. At this point, I'm not even counting the beads. I'm just going to thread them on and we'll see what happens, right? Can hold it up to the other one. Now, the reason that we want to have one extra bead on one of these is because we're going to do the wire wrapping with the 24 gauge wire is kind of a staggered wire wrap. So it just kind of helps if there's one extra bead. You don't have to have one extra bead, so don't force it if you just can't make it work, but it does make it a little bit easier. Just a tiny, tiny bit easier. All right, let's hold this up and see where we're at. So we definitely have one extra bead. That's making my wire here pretty short at the end. Definitely can get one loop out of it, and then I'm just going to twist a little bit more. It's not going to make two full coils there, but it's still good enough for me. It's secure. I know that's not going to come undone. Okay, so I'm going to move all of the excess beads out of the way. Now we're going to get started with our 24 gauge wire to secure these to each other, but to also make this really cool back and forth pattern. Now, there's not a measurement for the 24 gauge wire, and that's because I like to use it off of the spool. I don't like to pre-measure for the simple fact that everybody's is going to be a different length. Just kind of depending on what size bracelet you need. So giving you a measurement is really, it's not going to be very helpful for those of you who need a smaller bracelet or somebody who needs a larger bracelet. So just working off of the spool not only is going to give you exactly what you need, but it's also going to keep things kind of tidy as well. I say that as I'm here I'm struggling with a mess of my wire. Just ignore what I'm saying. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the end of my 24 gauge wire and I want to wire wrap it with a couple of wire wraps to one end. And it doesn't really matter which end or which one of the bangles. It really makes no difference. You just want to start right there between your loop and your first bead. And you just want to wrap it around maybe 2 or 3 times if you can, just to secure it. Trying to do things backwards today. I'm not sure why. So just wrap it around a couple of times, get it secure. Okay, just like that. Now, you can go ahead and trim off the tail. So you don't need that. Right. And now we're going to bring in the other bracelet and we're going to bring it in and we're going to lay it next to the one we've got. Now it's tricky just because it wants to spring and it wants to, you know, it wants to do its own thing. So until you get a couple of wraps, it's going to be a little tricky. I'm not going to lie. It is going to be a little tricky to hold on to. We're going to wrap next to our loop. So let me hold it for you. We want to wrap next to that loop at an angle, or probably would have made more sense for me to start with the shorter one. Let's start with the shorter one, just because I don't want to have to wrap next to that loop. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to cut this off. I anchored and I told you wrong. I apologize. I told you that it doesn't matter which one you anchor to. And truthfully, it doesn't. But I feel like you're going to have a little bit easier time with this if you will anchor to the one that is shorter. So the one that has one less bead, let's anchor our wire to it. Okay. That way, instead of wrapping this first wrap around next to our loop, we're actually going to wrap next to the bead. So what we're going to do is, see how I've got them staggered? Makes a little bit more sense, right? Instead of having to wrap right here like this, it's a lot easier to come across this way. Okay, so that's what we want. We want to wrap our wire at an angle. Okay, so we're skipping over the first bead, right? We're using the wires attached to our inner bracelet. We're coming at an angle. We're skipping over the first bead and we're going to wrap, and we're going to wrap all the way around the back. Okay, so kind of have to fidget with these a little bit. Okay, you're going all the way around the back and then back to the front. Okay, and again, it's a little tricky until you get a few wraps in. Now, every wrap around is going to be at that angle, right? So we're wrapping to the back. When we come back up here to the front, wrapping at an angle. Okay. You just want to keep going. So we're still wrapping next to every bead, but because we started with this one bead higher, that's what makes it sit at that angle. Okay, so just keep going. You're going to go all the way down and you're just wrapping all the way around. You don't really even have to turn it over in your hand or anything special. The only thing is just making sure that you open up the 2 bangles to get your wire around the back. Just makes it a lot easier than trying to take the spool all the way through the center, right? Wrap all the way down to the other side. And I'm also trying to kind of hold these together as well. I want them to be as equal all the way down. I don't want all of a sudden there to be some big space and gaps between the 2 bangles. Okay. Just keep going. And you'll see now it's a whole lot easier, right? I don't have to hold on so much. Really can just kind of wrap around now without much worry now that both of them are secured to each other. So I can speed up. You can use different gauges for this if you want to, and you can use different colors. You can go one direction with some silver and come back the other direction with some gold or some copper if you wanted to. Really can change this up. Not only that, but you don't have to do this with wire. You can do this with cord if you wanted to, and you would just secure your cord to the end instead of wire wrapping. You could crimp if you wanted to. There are so many different options for this bracelet, but this one, in my opinion, is the easiest. All right, so now we're down here at the end, and I'm going to wrap to the back, kind of at my angle, and then I'm going to wrap around, right, on the side where I come across the angle at the back. So I'm coming across and I'm wrapping right next to that wrapped loop. Okay. And pull my wire a little bit. And now I'm just going to kind of look at it, make sure that it's sitting the way I want it to. If it's not, you can kind of twist it a little bit with your hands, make all those beads line up. Now, it looks really cool just like it is. You could be finished if you wanted to. You could cut the wire off and call it a day, but we want to go back the other direction. That's going to give us this really cool chevron pattern. So to do that, we've secured here on the end, and now we're just going to go back the other way. And we're essentially just doing the exact same thing. We're just kind of going in an opposite, right? Opposite the wires that are already there to create that chevron pattern. Turn it over in my hand, right? And you can see I'm just filling in. To make those little chevrons. We're going to go all the way back to the other side of the bracelet. And honestly, that's it. That's all there is to this. It's very, very simple, very straightforward. It's just a little tricky in the beginning because it's a little fidgety at first, but after you get past those first couple of wraps, you're good to go. You just want to be sure that you're kind of keeping it consistent as far as the tension that you're keeping on the wire so that it's even all the way down. You don't have any big gaps, but other than that, that's really all there is to it. All right, and then we are down here to the end. Now, the only other thing that's left to do is just to secure this wire, and you can secure it right where you started if you want to. I need to trim off. Mine has a little bit of a tail still in there. Or you can wrap it on the one that doesn't have any wrapping. It really doesn't make any difference. I know that since this one already has some wire wrapping on it, it might be a little bulky. Mine has enough room, but you could always come across the back one more time and wire wrap to the opposite one if you wanted to. But honestly, that's it. We're just going to trim this off. And it's done. That's it. That's all. Easy peasy, right? Instant gratification jewelry at its finest. And not only is it instant gratification jewelry, but it is trendy. It is, you know, these bracelets are so popular. This one is so easy. It's so easy to get such a cool look. You really can use whatever beads you want to with this. You don't have to use these kind of mermaid beads if you don't want to. This can be, you can even do this with bicones. You can do this with cubes if you want to. every different shape of bead is going to give this a little bit different look for sure. And I saw somebody in the comments say it makes a great gift. It does. This is wonderful to give as a gift because you don't have to worry about sizing. It makes a great, we've talked before in some of the business classes here that you need like filler jewelry, which is still great jewelry, but it's all that jewelry that goes in between your statement pieces in your booth or on your website. And this is one of those pieces because again, you don't have to worry about measuring. This is definitely a one size is going to fit all kind of situation because it's a bangle bracelet. So there you go, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this one. It was super easy and super fun. And I feel like the results are definitely worth it. I'm going to turn you guys around just to give you a different point of view of this bracelet. And I'm going to let you guys go. I hope I've inspired you for sure. And you don't have to use two different colors of beads either. You absolutely can do this with all one color if you wanted to. And you could change it up. You could do like all one color of bead, but then use like an artistic wire in a color. That would be awesome too. It doesn't fall off. This one's a little big for my wrist, just because I have a really, really small wrist. But as far as bangles are concerned, this one, it's going to stay. That memory wire, because it keeps that shape, it's not gonna open up on you. Now I will say the heavier the bead is going to be, the more it might tend to open up on you a little bit, but I really feel like it's a pretty secure bangle bracelet for sure. All right, everybody, I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of your week. And I look forward to seeing you guys again soon with another fun project. Thanks, guys.